Ramin, I am so excited to have you here on the sessions. I feel like I always like open a show saying that, and it's like a thing that you just kind of like say to do the show. No offense to my past guests, I love them all. But legit, I am like so pumped to do this interview. You've done everything. Holy moly, what a life you've lived.
Well, it's great to hear it back, but sometimes you still take it not for granted. But I still feel green as ever. But I appreciate hearing.
Okay, so we're still in the month of October, and for the month of October, we've been doing like sort of like scary sessions, interviews. So we won't fully go down that rabbit hole, but I do feel like just like the ambiance of the setting where you are right now, it's like a foggy, moody day. You spend a lot of time in theaters, of course. Theaters are notoriously very haunted. Do you have any kind of scary stories or like haunted stories?
Well, not really, because I try and keep myself away from being caught up by a ghost. Because I'm a bit of a pussycat when it comes to stuff like that, especially like quiet theaters or if I'm leaving late. Oh no, no, no! I don't
You
like it at
run.
all. I remember I was on tour with Pirates of Penzance, and we were in Glasgow, in Scotland, and there was a piano room on the very top floor. And I remember I went up there, started playing it. Then I was like, "Where is everyone? Why is it so quiet?" I just felt like this cool. I don't know if I was just, because there was ghost stories. You felt this chill, but I don't know if I was just making up in my head. But I must have broke world records getting back to my dressing room.
Theaters can be so creepy. So John and I just did a ghost tour of Cincinnati, and we ended in one of the old theaters that they're now revamping. They're putting like millions of dollars in to like really redo it. But it was just so creepy. We're like down in the basement where the dressing rooms were. Then we're like up in the mezzanine, and we had the little like energy meter tracker things. It was like going nuts the whole time. So yeah, theaters can be creepy, creepy places.
Yeah,
A lot of history there.
my 18-year-old is over from England for a month. So on the 30th, I'm going to take him to one of these in like live action haunted house things. I'm
Those are
not
great.
I'm not looking forward to
Well,
it.
there's like the ones that you have to like sign a waiver for sometimes too, where they like grab you and like,
No. Yeah, I'm out.
not for you.
What's the safe word? I'm out.
I know, right? Pomplamoose. I don't want to play
Yeah.
this game at all. Um, okay, well, listen, well, we don't have to get into too many scary stories. I just thought maybe with your time in theaters that like maybe you'd like look through a mirror while you're getting ready and there's like a child behind you or some kind of horrifying
Renee, if
situation.
that ever happened, that's it. I'm done. Show's over.
The show's over. I have retired. And I mean, damn, you played the Phantom of the Opera. So, like, you were the ghost.
I was the ghost. That's right.
You were the ghost. Okay, of course, I was very excited finding out that you were Canadian. I love my Canadian people. What are like the big differences of like growing up in Canada to like where your life is now, especially like in like the theater world?
Well, you know what? Like also when I grew up, this was before social media and all these noisy distractions. So I always say I always had a childhood. And I'm a country boy at heart. I know I got the city behind me and I'm very grateful for what the city offers me. But I just want to live on a farm. I want to live quiet life away from all this. And it's such a you need this to have the other, but I don't have time to have the other because I'm always doing this. So I loved growing up in Peterborough, Ontario. It was that sort of town where my buddy's backyard, they would rink it every
Oh, the best. I was always so jealous of those kids that had those.
yeah, and had floodlights. Like his dad, Mr. Webb, would just go all out. He had the blue lines, the red lines. The OHL donated actual nets, and that
Thank
was
you, the Pete's, Peterborough Pete's.
and it was one of those where I would lace up at home and take the back pass. I was in skates the whole way. It was perfect.
Whoa, that's great.
It was
That's
perfect.
so cool. Peterborough is really beautiful. I grew up in Ajax, so about like 45 minutes
Oh man, I would live in
west of there.
Peterborough. I'd move back in a heartbeat given the chance.
It's funny. I find like as like we get older too, and can kind of reflect on the childhoods that we did get to have growing up in Canada and growing up like outside the city. I definitely look at it with rose-colored glasses at this point. I feel I'm like, oh my gosh, we really had it good. Again, before all the social media, before all these other things that were happening, it was nice to just like be those kids that could skate in the backyard and enjoy
Yeah.
actually doing things.
Yeah, never had to worry about locking your doors.
Never.
Next thing you know, you're
I'm still really bad for that.
yeah. I don't lock this door over here, but oh yeah, who's gonna? I'm like, if you get this high, well, you can have what you want.
Yeah, if you made it up this
Yeah,
far, bring it.
you
We
deserve
can
it.
do it. Okay, so you were actually born in Iran. Obviously you're very proud Iranian man. What was it like when you guys fled Iran? Do you have any memories of that?
No, because I was literally just born. I was
You were a
months old
baby.
when we
Okay.
fled to Italy. But I only have to turn on the TV now to see what's happening.
I
And
know.
history is just cyclical, and unfortunately, it is. And hopefully,
Mm,
this will lead to better changes to Iran that people have a freedom of choice. It's not necessarily changing religion; it's just having that freedom of
mhm.
choice that we all take for granted over here. So,
Certainly.
it's still part of my culture. It's still part of my DNA, even though like I'm not necessarily a religious man or anything like that, but just etiquette, certain customs that I find that are still innately in me.
Hmm.
And I'm very proud being Iranian, just as much as I'm proud having a Canadian passport and British
Yeah.
residency and now an American green card. So um,
You get the
yeah,
best of all the worlds. You get a little flavor of everything.
yeah. It's equally charming and equally confusing.
Especially when you're traveling, you're like, which passport do I use right now? You feel like a James Bond.
Yeah, but it's also especially at this age where identity, I think we're all trying to seek out who we are more than ever because of
Hmm.
said social media and all this noise and fast-paced life we're living. And I'm like, what am I? So I'm going through that at this age. So you try and figure all that because you work so hard and you travel so much and you just think, what's it all about? What's it all for?
What have you landed on while you're thinking about that now?
I just right now I haven't landed on anything apart from I'll do what I need to do to make sure my boys have a good
Hmm.
future. You know,
Yeah.
also teach them to follow your passions, and that's where like ironically this wrestling thing has been pretty amazing. And it's not just another job or something that's interesting. It's like working with Alpha and Bull James and working with Matt and wrestlers, just where they've come from and their stories and how earthy and grounded they are because of what wrestling requires as
Hmm.
humans. And also, Vicious Vicky and Tina working with them and Mickey James, hearing her story, especially her recent post she did, and like what that costs you as a person and what you contributed for people. And as an artist,
Yeah.
it's very similar. And well, I'm totally gone off tangent there.
No, it's great. I love that because I mean, there are such parallels between what you do, between being in the theater. I mean, so many jobs require so many different things from you. But I think as a performer as well, and especially with theater, I mean, with you guys doing what, 8 shows a week, and then you look at a wrestling schedule and, whether you're training, whether you're putting on a show, there's just such a grind. And it really requires a certain kind of person to fall into that life and to seek that life out. So I think, for you to be able to draw the parallels between the two of those and now bring those worlds together with doing the last match, like what an amazing opportunity. When I started hearing about this, I was like, hold on. Like I was just so fascinated that you guys were doing this. I've also been like incredibly fascinated by with what Matt Cardona has done since departing from WWE to doing death matches to doing theater shows with you. I mean, this guy is like, I feel like he's really taking this like new lease on life to just do whatever he wants and like test your body, test your skills, test the things that you can do. So I think what you guys are doing is just so amazing.
And that's great that
Kudos.
you, thank you. And that's great that you see that about him because we all saw that because it's two worlds coming together and his work ethic but it all comes down to storytelling. And that's what's so
Mm-hmm.
amazing about this last match. And there's still a lot of naysayers going pro wrestling. Even some of my team are like, what are you doing that for? I'm like,
Sure.
you have to come see it to experience because what I experienced that night, I've never experienced before. And the demographic of friends who came from my world, the theater world, not one had a bad word to say to the point where I was like, you actually enjoyed that? I was shocked. I was shocked. And
Well,
people
it
were,
is funny when you look at the two opposite ends of it, where theater just feels so prestigious, and there's such, there's such a respect around what happens in the theater. Where I think with pro wrestling, it's, a lot of people can really look down their nose at it. But I think for somebody like you who has been in those situations, your body has been through what it means to perform at the level that you do. And I think for you to see the work that pro wrestlers do, I think that definitely gives everybody a nice little pat on the back.
but it's all theater and it's all
Mm-hmm.
storytelling. And of course, there's physical ramifications. And I have a lot of supporters like, you're going to get hurt. And I'm like, ironically, playing the Phantom has given me the biggest injury of my life. My discs in my neck are ruined because of that role.
Oh,
So I'm like,
shit.
that's not safe. I was almost falling off out of the angel. So I'm like, I'm not going to live my life trying not to die. I'm going to live my life to live. And,
Yeah.
and I don't see this as a risk because actually taking these bumps, although I remember when on day one, when Offa,
Yeah. What was day one? What was the day one bump like?
holy jeez. The bumps weren't so bad because Offa and Bull are such great coaches that they knew I was trying to run before I could walk. And like, dude, calm it down. You got to take it one step at a time. But our producer, Jeremiah, and the co-creator of this, he's like, all I want is make sure you take your first chop on the first day. So I was like, okay.
Great.
So I'm talking to Offa. He set me up and he's like, so I'm like, what's the baby steps to take a chop? He's like, there is none. You just take a chop.
We're
I'm like,
taking it.
so where are you going to hit me? He goes, just take me there. I was like, okay. And it's on my Instagram. Renee, when this shovel of a hand hit my chest, I remember thinking, it's not fake. It's not fake. I thought it was fake. My toes curled. I felt like my whole body stiffened. I was like, this is ridiculous. And even in the match with Cardona, I had to take 3. And I had to no sell the third one. But by that point, I'm like, oh, dear God. I don't think I can no sell this one. He's broke skin.
I'm
But,
bleeding.
but there's something, I don't know, there's something about like the physical truth that you're putting into the storytelling because I'm still playing a character.
Mm-hmm.
It was cathartic. And also this character and what he's going through. And there's some parallels, like as artists, what you sacrifice, the damage it has on marriages, the damage it has on, your father-son relationship or with your children because of distance and work, without time together,
Yeah.
things
No,
don't
it's
grow. So it's,
yeah. And I think, I feel like the smarter we all kind of get and the more we can figure things like that out. Cause I mean, you mentioned things being cyclical, but it's like, we've been able to learn from the people before us in the wrestling world as performers, the people that have been on the road and trying to like strike that balance, which is not an easy thing to do. I mean, John and I are so lucky that we're both in this world and we get to travel together. We get to do all of our stuff together. But I have always felt so much for like the wives or husbands that don't get to be on the road and don't get to experience what that's like. Cause yeah, I mean, it's definitely not easy. It's a huge sacrifice. And like you said, it's like your body just goes through the ringer. So you come home and it's not like you're ready to get on the ground and like play with kids and like do all of those things because your body's kind of reeling from what the past week has been like. But anyways, okay. So the last match, how did this all come together for you guys to really execute this? What was like the first steps of that?
well, that's something Jeremiah, his co-producer Rachel, and the composers have all been working on for ages. And so Jeremiah's standby Nick Arnstein in Funny Girl, which I'm currently in and playing Nick Arnstein. But I've known
Yeah, you
Jeremiah.
are.
Yeah, I've known Jeremiah for 20 years. Hardly had time together, but we would just see each other through the business around the world. Like, hey, Jeremiah. So Jeremiah's like the salt of the earth, one of the nicest guys. So we're hanging out in my dressing room before one show, and he's telling me about this project, this pro wrestling musical. I'm like, what? I used to be a big pro wrestling fan. I sort of fallen off the rails, but now I'm really back into it since Triple H has taken over and seen all this
Yeah.
old school meets new school coming together. I'm like, oh, this product is, within the last 3 weeks, I'm like, reinvented themselves.
Yeah.
And good to see Bray Wyatt back. I'm like, whoa, that guy.
Yes. I know. So good to see him back. It's great.
So he was talking about doing a concept recording. I'm like, well, if me being part of it helps, I'm a mate. I'll help mates do whatever. I'll sing a song if you want. He goes, would you do that? I was like, sure. Then he talked about doing this workshop. I was like, okay, so we'll do a little read through. He goes, yeah, maybe we'll get a ring in and maybe we'll try some things. I was like, All right. Yeah, sounds like
Okay.
fun. And it slowly somehow, oh, Matt Cardona's going to come. He's going to play Swagger. You guys are going to have a fight. I'm like, am I?
So wait,
'Cause
how did Matt get looped in on this? Like how did this come like how did he become aware of what you guys were doing so that he could kind of throw his name in the hat?
that be down to Jeremiah and reaching
Okay.
out to, because he's connected with a lot of regional uh, uh, wrestling organization. I think ISPW in Jersey. I'm getting a
Okay.
Tommy from that who runs like I think he has like a collectible shop. They connected, and then Tommy helps, who's now also co-producer, and helped connecting with some of the like Brutus Barber, Beefcake, Demolition, folks like that who are now on board, Mickey James, to give credibility to this because we want to honor, we want to do the wrestling world right as much as we want them to do the theater world right.
Yeah.
So I think that's how Cardona came about, and they just sent him the script, and when he was reading, and I think his partner Chelsea was reading it with him, he's like, "You got to do this." And as you say, Matt's one of those guys who kind of is writing his own destiny now.
Yeah.
He's his boss, and he's trying something new. And what's great about this is now experiencing what I experienced, and now I know what he's experienced. Even with the more naysayers we get, I know it's the right thing to do because people will naysay this or poo-poo it or talk shit about it. Oh, sorry if I don't know if I was swear. Sorry.
Oh no, let it fly. You're good.
It's only because they don't understand it and haven't experienced it. But this is theater. And it's one of my favorite compliments or comments I was getting a lot after the first outing of the last match. You'd have theater folks going, "Well, I guess I'm a wrestling fan now." And then you have wrestling fans going, "I guess I'm a theater fan now."
Yeah.
But the common denominator, like you both love the same thing. Just because one is maybe linked to more of a blue collar thing, but art is for everyone. Storytelling is for everyone. I don't care what you do in your life. When you come to theater, we're all one. You come to this.
Totally.
We're just because there's a ring in there and we're throwing our bodies about. Well, it's a dance. It's what we do. It's no or more or less dangerous than what we do. What dancers put their bodies through every night. You
Sure.
twist an ankle, you're done.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, it is really interesting just seeing the correlation between wrestling and theater. And I always do love when someone thinks that they're not a fan of wrestling, yet they are a fan of some of these other things. You're like, if you come to this, I'm telling you, you're gonna love this. It's big
Yeah.
characters, the storytelling's great, the physicality of it. I always find it so fascinating, and I feel like my respect for what all of these athletes do just like continues to grow the more time I get to spend with people, and the more you see like curveballs thrown at people, and they just have to figure it out there. Who was the biggest surprise to you of somebody that jumped over to the other side that decided they were a wrestling fan?
It would be most of my cast from Funny Girl that came.
Yeah. How do we get Leah Michelle out to a show? Can we do that?
I'm working on it. I'm going to see her today. I'm like, Leah, come on. You're going to love it. Like
Yes.
it's folks like that. But you know what? She's been so supportive. She's like, how was the wrestling thing? She goes, this sounds amazing. Like, so she hasn't been one of the naysayers.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm like, we got to get you out to this.
Okay, so this all happened and it's great. However, you did say before we started recording, we're getting another round of this? Do we get to
Yeah, just announced literally before we got on this podcast, November 14th, we're going to run it back. And I'm going to have some more moves. And let's see if me and Matt can start calling the match and see what happens in the end.
Call it out there, baby.
I'm ready because I was going to start training with Bull.
Bull is the best, by the way. Love that guy.
Because Bull and Offa are still going to be our coaches, but I got to get to the Poconos to see Offa. But I think this Thursday in Queens, we're going to start training up because I also, before they announced another round of, and it's going to be 2 shows on November 14th back in Jersey City, I said to Matt, I said, well, you came to our world. Come February, if there's an organization who'll have us, I want to come to your world because it's only fair.
It is only fair. I was just going to ask you. I mean, you've laced up the boots, but now let's step into this other arena. Step into that wrestling world, and let's really.
Yeah,
I mean, you're shredded. You're jacked. You've got like the bod. You're ready to go do it. I feel like you obviously have the physical wherewithal to pull this off.
I don't know. At 44, I kept thinking maybe it's too late to start. And my co-star Amber, she's younger and she's flying off the ropes. I'm like, WWE will snap her up in a second. But they were so supportive, and again, Bull and Offer were like, no, you got the athleticism, you can still give it a good run at this. So I'm like, well, then let's give it a proper go. Let me go to his world. We'll properly train because I don't want to take this for granted, and I don't want to hurt anyone. Because what's crazy now is when I watch SmackDown or Raw, or especially Extreme Rules the other week, knowing what I know, and knowing that actually I know it might be scripted, but it's real bumps and it hurts. So now when I watch things, I'm watching it even more like, oh my God, I know what just happened there. I don't know how they do it. Matt Riddle going off the top.
It's scary. There's so many times when I watch my husband wrestle that I'm like cringing. Even like you said, like taking a chop. Sometimes you're out there in that arena and you hear that connection. Even though it is super common, we hear it, we see it all the time. It still makes me like tense a little bit where I'm like, oh my God.
Have you seen Shane and Gunther go at it? I'm like, that is not fake. That's for us, you know?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I know, it's crazy. Well, I cannot wait to see you step into a like real wrestling ring with a real wrestling crowd. I know you guys would have had a great combination of theater folk and wrestling folk at the last match, but I think when you go to like the full wrestling crowd, just
but
to
the
see,
chant,
like,
the
I
chants
get the chants going. Yes,
I remember the second show, the one who's playing like the boss. He was doing the scene with Matt, and Matt's great at like, and what was great about the audience, they knew when to be pantomime and then when to listen. Like I thought my duet with Amber, which is like a 7-minute duet, I thought people would check out at that point, or the wrestling fans would be like, come on, where's the action? You could hear a pin drop. They came for the ride. So the respect was amazing.
oh, that's
But
so
like,
cool.
but then there was times where I'd be like, you suck. And then I love how Matt plays the villain, because he plays like the chicken shit villain.
So good, yeah.
He's like,
so
I don't
good.
suck. He doesn't threaten him. He's more put off that I don't suck. I don't suck. But then when the boss left, the crowd turned on him, and all you hear is, you suck too. You suck too. And rattle him a bit. I'm like, no, this is a rite of passage. That means they are with you.
It is a rite of passage. It's true. Yeah. No, it's totally true. That's so fun. Okay, so November 14th, 2 shows, Jersey City. It's officially announced. It's out there. So people better snap up their tickets right away to get eyes on that.
Spend a whole day there. We'll have a blast.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So great. Okay, so you're doing Funny Girl. Congratulations. Oh my gosh. I was just in New York not that long ago, and I was like, I need to go see Funny Girl. And there was 2 tickets left. But by the time we landed and like got to where we were going, I was like, okay, it's not going to, my dreams quickly faded. I thought that I was going to be able to make it, and I couldn't. But I love that this show exists. Your guys' cast is just incredible. So great. How did it feel to be a part of something that just had so much like drama swirling around it for a while? That must have been really stressful on the cast.
Yeah, and also out of all the things I've read and seen, I don't tend to try and get involved with these things, especially online stuff. I'm like, no one knows. I was there in the middle of it. But you know, it's one of those things, and it is what it is. It's part of the business side of things, and you know, things, but you know, cast changed, leads come and go, and it is what it is. I think a lot of it didn't need to be said, and I don't know. It's just one of those things, and it's
you probably can't talk too much about it anyways.
Well, because it's been and done now, and
yeah,
everyone's on to bigger, better things, and everyone, you know, I loved everyone involved, and it's just one of those things, and here we are.
Yeah, here we are. I mean, yeah, I'm a fan of both women, very much so. And being able to, I just saw like some clips of Leah Michele making her debut, and like her voice. What is it like just being right next to that voice throughout the show? Because like,
it's
good
crazy.
Lord.
And it's like she's got, like anyone, I always think you're tour fit, or you know, when I tour with the band, the first couple of shows, it takes so much out of you. Then you get this like second wind, you get leathered. She's now show fit. And there was a switch. I think by week 2, maybe by the 3rd week, she started doing these things with her voice. I was like, oh my Lord, listen to that. And to duet every night with her, it's like when we do Who Are You Now? There's a couple of points in the show where she hit some notes, and I just can't even hide the reaction. And it is what it is. And I'll never tell her which ones, because I don't want 'Cause sometimes a compliment is worse than a critique.
Sure. That's funny. I
Um,
feel like no one ever says that, but you're absolutely right. It can be.
oh,
Yeah.
100%. But then once you compliment a specific moment, that moment's gone. Because
Mm-hmm.
then you build up to it. She gave me this compliment about a comedy timing. I went to do it the next time. I was just thinking about
Gone.
it. Like, you ruined it.
She stepped on it. Yeah, you can't. Yeah, you're right. You can't point those things out because then you just can't recreate. Now you're thinking about it. You're trying to like execute it the exact same way, and it's impossible if you're not feeling it that same way. You just
Yeah.
can't. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's rough. Okay, when did you fall in love with theater? And like, I'm always fascinated by how people like really fall in line of the work that they do, of like just having like a spark go off of like, oh, I like this, to then actually getting down to brass tacks and putting in the work to do this and be a Tony nominated performer, to work on Les Mis, to work in Phantom of the Opera, to work on Funny Girl, like all of these amazing things you've done. What was that first spark for you?
Phantom of the Opera. When I went on a school trip, growing up in Peterborough, Ontario, going to Toronto was like, oh, we're going to the city.
Yes.
And it
Wait,
was a
what
school,
theater was that at?
Pantages.
Pantages Theater. Yes, it was. That was one
Well,
of the
the whole,
only theater productions I ever saw in Toronto was that when I was a kid, and it was
and they
amazing.
did the whole theater up for it. So you walk in, you're already, you're in that world. They
Yeah.
did a really great job with that. And I didn't want to go, but it was, who wants to see an opera? I was playing hockey. It was, one of the
Mm-hmm.
enforcers on the team. I was a tough guy. I don't need to go to see this, but it's a day off school. Sign me up.
Mm-hmm.
And then I remember when we get there, I was like, oh, wow. Then you heard Colin Wilkinson's voice, who was a Phantom. I was like, this voice was different. Because at this point, I'm into like Tragically Hip, Tracy
Yes.
Chapman, Johnny Cash, Joe Cocker, these different kind of voices. I wasn't really ever into that pop world, or it was like Public Enemy, and that's that era of rap.
Right.
But this was so unique, and suddenly I'm so drawn into the story, the underdog of the Phantom story, and by the end, I got this lump in my throat. I'm like, oh my god, I can't cry in front of these guys. And then I kept thinking, it stuck with me, and I wanted to do that. And I remember with my hockey mates and one of my buddies, Scott McGilvery, who was my best buddy in high school, would always rib me about loving Phantom so much. And I was like, I'm going to become the Phantom. I'm going to become the Phantom. And I wanted to be a young Phantom. I don't know why I had that in my head. So at 26, when I got the first contract in London to be Phantom, I was like, oh man,
Is
this
that
is,
really rare? Because normally that's played by an older actor.
yeah, especially at least in London and whatnot. And at that
Yeah.
time, because I was in playing Chris in Miss Saigon, and it was the same producer, Sir Cameron McIntosh. And a week before I finished playing Chris, and at that point I was 25, and he comes to my room just like, what a great run. And we're mates at this point, but I still treat him like the Vince McMahon, like
Yeah.
the friend is friend, but he's still the boss. So I'm like,
Uh-huh.
I have like a 5 minute rule. Like after 5 minutes, we don't need to talk anymore because it'll slip up.
Yeah, you don't want to overstep the boundary and say
Yeah.
something. You're like, okay, never mind. We got our moment, and I'll leave it at that.
So then he's like, what do you want to do next? I said, do you want? And it's almost like when he asked me, he had this smile, because as if he knew. And I went, I want to play the Phantom. And he goes, aren't you young? I said, yeah, but I have an idea of what I want to do with him. And he laughed and he left. 2 days later, I get this envelope under the door. It's the material. See you in a week. So then I had to go work on it with them and show them what I wanted to do with it.
Holy shit. Wow.
And he gave
That's
me,
like, what was your reaction to like get this envelope under your door and open it and realize what it was?
I still get chills thinking about it, because this was the dream. This was all I ever wanted to do. And somehow, like, it wasn't about necessarily being an actor. It was, I wanted to be Phantom.
Yeah.
But I was working my way up, and at this point I'm learning my craft, and I didn't want to ever be caught out as a fraud. I'm not the best singer. I'm not the best this or that. I'm me. And this is the story and the interpretation I'm going to do. And I always will die on my own sword. I don't really care what people think. I'd rather just do what I do. If I fail, fine. But that's on my call.
So
then,
how did you, oh, no, carry on. Go ahead.
no. And then we just worked on it. And then I remember the first time I was about to go on, I'm sitting in a makeup chair and I'm watching Tanya put on the prosthetics, and I couldn't stop laughing the whole
Oh
time.
my
Like,
God.
this is ridiculous. And I kept thinking, now what?
Now
What's the
what?
what are you going to do?
Yeah, it's like almost a little bit like, okay, I said I really wanted to do this and I barked up that tree and now I get to do it and here's this opportunity and the curtain's about to come up. This is my moment to go and do it. And obviously you had so much success doing that. What was it like afterwards to so early in your career achieve the goal that you had set for yourself? Was it sort of like a now what? Or did you sort of have a bit of a freedom in that you have already achieved the thing that you wanted to do?
No, because again, like I feel like I said, as green now as I did then, because it's sort of well, you want to keep expanding as an actor. You don't want. I never wanted to think now I've made it. Look at me, because
Sure.
what are you going to learn from there? I was still like the way I would play Phantom now. What is it? Just under 20 years later, it would be a whole new fresh take. I'd see what I would do with it.
Should we run it back? Let's run it back.
I don't know. They've never asked me since. So, ever since the DVD version we did at the 25th anniversary, that was the last bow
Yeah.
as a Phantom I ever took. But that was such a, like, it can't get better than that. At the Royal Albert Hall, like, I remember looking around, seeing people in the ensemble there, all of us celebrating this wonderful show. But I'm like, I've been a fan of all these people. Some of these actors I still look up to and I'm learning from today. And I'm like, this is crazy that I'm the guy in the mask.
So amazing. It's so cool. Like that just gives me like goosebumps to imagine you getting the envelope, getting the makeup on, the prosthetics, and like stepping out and doing it, and like what a big life check mark. Holy crap. What does it feel different performing in London? I feel like the vibe, and I'm like such an outsider on this, so I could be totally wrong, but I feel like theater in the UK especially is like very prestigious. Does it feel different when you're there performing as opposed to being on Broadway?
Yeah, it's funny. I guess I feel like it's a little more commercial here. Commercial in the sense of like how the business run, because there's much more like theaters. And
Yeah.
there's an element of like the plays, and they still love musicals there. But it's just a smaller community. I love the work over there. I love the actors over there, and I love the training that comes out from over there. Says the guy who's never trained in his life, but I'm learning from my peers, all these years. So there's I don't know. I don't even say there's something a bit more humble out there, but here it's like the bright lights, and you look at
Yeah.
Times Square and all this theater being promoted and whatnot. Over there, it's a
There's
bit more underplayed.
there's like a difference too. Like I know in Canada, certainly there's like that star meter is like not a thing. It's not the same way that it is in the United States in terms of like recognition and all the different opportunities. Like it definitely has, I don't know what the word is to like properly describe it, but it definitely has like a different feel to it, I would say. Says the person that's also not ever been in your shoes. Okay, so you've never really trained. What does that mean? Obviously you've trained, but like, what
No,
were,
I've trained more as a wrestler than I have as a singer.
okay, how is this possible? How did you go, like, to hear Phantom of the Opera for the first time and like have that lump in your throat, being a hockey player, enforcer, like not that theater guy, to now having this like beautifully tuned instrument that is your voice. How the hell did you
Renee,
do
a
that?
lot of a lot of people will argue that beautifully tuned remark. I'm not, I am not a precision singer. I'll tell you that much. I know. Even
Fuck them.
that's what I say. Like, well, you're stuck with me.
Yeah, take it or leave it. This is what I'm
Well, for,
bringing to the table.
well, for me, it's about heart and passion, and for some reason, they're bringing me to do this role. Then I'm going to give you my interpretation. Love it or hate it, and I don't mind the hating. Indifference, I have a problem with that.
Sure. Yeah.
I remember getting a tweet once. They said, "You're overrated." I tweeted back, "Well, at least I'm rated."
Yeah, I'll take it. Good or bad. Yeah, it's the in
Um,
between part that's a little muddy.
but you learn. I haven't been singing great. I feel like my voice is not where it used to be. I don't know if that's because it's out of practice. Nicky Arnstein's not like a Valjean or a Phantom or even what I did in Anastasia. So maybe it's just a product of, you work out a certain way, you get a certain physique or a certain strength. I need to
Sure.
change it up a bit. Um, but it was all about storytelling. When I hear great singers, I don't listen to the quality of the voice. It's never something that was something I would measure. Joe Cocker singing "You Are So Beautiful" barely hits the note. Show
Sure.
me a better version,
Yeah.
because I want his heart. I want his imperfections or hers in what Tracy Chapman does. And
Yeah.
I don't want to hear perfection. So I'm not going to offer it. And I certainly can't offer it.
Perfection's boring. It's
Yeah.
boring. Yeah, no, you're right. You want your record to be a little scratched up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Audiences are paying for transitions, for storytelling to be transported. If if you want perfect singing, listen to an album, or I'm not your guy. But, you know, I will give you that Iranian passion. you know.
Yeah, here it comes. Here it
Yeah.
comes. Okay, so the Pirates of Penzance. You got to work with David Hyde Pierce.
Oh,
I am a Frasier enthusiast. How great was he to work with? Let's just have a
unbelievable.
David Hyde Pierce powwow here, because wow.
Just it's one of the reasons I said yes to the job without considering anything else. I'm like, to be in a room with him, I'm going to be better for it. And I'm not a smart man. I know shit about shit. And I get so nervous about people that I really look up to, who I find intelligent and talented. Man, he made me feel so comfortable, so empowered. Felt like I was talking to a mate. Like on breaks, he would just sit down and we start talking, and like part of me wants to throw up out of nerve. But he was just so kind and so generous. And then we're a fan because he's so good at what he does. He was just phenomenal watching him work, and to play these scenes with him, like we had to go toe to toe, and I'm like, what a gift! I'll never forget that. To do this comedy with him and work out and learn from him about comedy timing, and to really get these scenes to come to life, and it really came together on the night. So I hope we have another go at that with him.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, yeah, you want to talk about that comedic timing. Literally every night for probably, gosh, dare I say, like at least like the last probably 6 years. We go to bed watching Frasier almost every
Yeah.
night. And I mean, to think of how many times it's been on like loop as we're like falling asleep, and just like the way that Niles Crane, the way he just like reacts to things, like he's just such a special character. I mean, obviously he's got an incredible body of work outside of Frasier, but that is where my love of David Hyde Pierce comes from. So the fact that you got to work with him is wow.
And just
So
so
cool.
so effortless on a stage, and it's like everyone would just be drawn to him, and the way he held himself, it was a masterclass.
Who else's master class would you like to attend, to work with?
Sam Rockwell.
Oh, okay.
That
Yeah.
guy, that
Good
guy,
one.
he can do anything.
He's pretty special.
Yeah. And I've always wanted to, like, I'd love to do something with Kathy Bates.
Oh,
I love her work.
yes.
I have a chance to learn from her.
Yeah. She's so great. I mean, when you think of Misery to the Water Boy, you look at she's
I
done a
know.
little bit of everything. She's the
Yeah.
best.
So, but yeah,
So
Sam
good.
Rockwell to me, man, what an actor.
Yeah. Do you want to do some more film and television? Is that something that you would like to get more into?
Yeah, absolutely. Also, just to be diverse, to straddle both sides. It's been great to do that. There's
Yeah.
a few things on the card now, but it's just trying to just juggle it with the Funny Girl schedule. And
Sure. What's the schedule like for Funny Girl right now? How much longer do you guys have?
I don't know. I got to check because it's all been. I don't know what Leah's contract it is. Her contract is to mine. I need to check that out. I don't know until they tell me. I'll
Okay.
stick around for a little
Just keep
longer.
going.
Yeah,
How do
I
you
got.
balance that between like seeing your family and stuff when you are working like nose to the grindstone like that? Like how do you find the balance to live life outside of a grueling schedule like that?
I don't, and they live in England, so
Oh
I'm not gonna lie.
gosh.
That's not been great, and I don't know. I don't have an answer to that because this is a long haul,
Yeah.
and we've done this so many times, and I think we took it for granted that that's just the way our life is. But it's not.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
you know you're not feeding. It's not giving the nutrients you need. You can't do that from a distance. So that's really tough, to be honest. And I don't know. We got to figure that out. But at the same time.
Yeah. Do you get lonely when you're on the road like this, or not on the road? You're there, but what is that like when
Oh,
you're in the hotel and
100%.
stuff by yourself? Or
100%. Like I got a beautiful apartment, so this is,
yeah.
I got 360 view. So I'm very well taken care of when it comes to that. But I don't know. I'm also at that age now where you just think, how do you get that balance? I remember years ago, a manager of a famous band, we were having drinks in Soul House one night and we were talking. And I remember he said, both can't be on par. You either have an extraordinary career and then your personal life will have to negotiate, AKA suffer, or this.
Mm-hmm.
But to get the balance, he goes, he goes, I've yet to see it. And I'll never forget that conversation. And now I'm like, oh my God, he's right.
Doesn't it kind of break your heart to hear that though and know that it's true? Because I feel like so often you're like, I'll figure it out. I'll figure it out. It's fine. It's fine. And then when you're in it, you're like, oh my gosh, where's my life preserver? To like, how do we figure this out? It can be, it's sad when you're in it and you're trying to
Yeah.
figure it out.
And there's been the added pressure of the 2 years of the pandemic we had where it sucked a lot of our lifeline. And so
Yeah.
I'm making up for that. But also, very, like, there is the flip side. I'm very fortunate. Look at all this opportunity. Even in the last 3 months, I've played a wrestler, a pirate, Nikki Arnstein, and there's a couple other things on the card that I got to either turn down or say yes to because, there's a line in Funny Girl when she goes, you can get, oh, I've totally blacked out of her line. And then I respond with, you can get lonesome being that busy.
Yeah.
And I'm keeping
No,
myself
it's true.
so busy right now because I don't want idle time. So,
Yeah,
but
no, it is really hard to find that balance. I was saying at the very beginning of this show, it's like John and I are so lucky that we're in the same line of work. We're on the road together a lot of time. His schedule is so much lighter now than it ever used to be. So like, thank God for that. But especially now having a kid, we've got a daughter, trying to find what that balance is. And, even as you think about it, you're like, man, like I love the idea of bringing my daughter to wrestling shows. I love the idea of her watching me work, watching John work. But that can only last for so long, and then life kind of goes on. Your kid has to go to school. There has to be normalcy for your kid. And we're pretty far from having to cross that bridge, but it's something that I think about too, where it's like, oh, cool. Like I can give you this really great, extraordinary life. You might not even want that. That might not be a thing that you're even interested in. Or God, am I screwing my kid up by bringing them on the road and having them live in a hotel? Like it's so hard to know what's right and what's wrong.
knowing what I know now, I think I would recommend sacrificing as long as you're together traveling.
Yeah,
That's the better sacrifice to have or the hardship to
sure.
have. I know that's not easy either. But sometimes it's like when people give their unsolicited advice about, well, you could just get a job back home. I'm like, well, if I could. Also,
Doesn't
the
work like
opportunities
that.
here, and also we can't hug the bills away.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
Life,
it's
life
true.
is life. What it is, what it is. Especially now, the cost of living, especially in the UK, is insane.
Oh my God. In Canada too.
Yeah,
Holy, like
everywhere. To be honest.
my mom will call me about like just going to the grocery store. And we were just up in Canada 2 weeks ago, and I could not believe how expensive things were there. It's wild.
Every time I go grocery shopping, I'm like, what did I buy?
I know. Oh my God. I went yesterday to go pick up stuff to make a white chicken chili. I spent $250.
No. But
How?
listen, with all these hardships, it's not lost on me that I'm still in a very fortunate position, and I'm
Yeah.
very grateful because we can get through this. I've got work. I'm doing something I really love,
Mm-hmm.
and that's life, right?
Yep. Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, yeah, there's ups, there's downs, but you're right. I mean, the fact, God, the career that you've been able to have and what the road looks like ahead for you is so cool as you're going to continue to navigate that, and so excited to see what other projects you do have on the back burner, the ones that you have to either say yes or no to, whatever
Yeah.
those are going to look like. Very, very cool. But Ramin, I'm so happy that I got to have you here on the show. You're an absolute rock star. I really hope that I can make it out to the last match, November 14th, Jersey City. I would love to be there for that.
Oh,
So,
please do. If Emilio can come, if John can come,
yeah,
you got to be there. There's a seat
definitely.
waiting for you.
I
I'm
mean,
in
and
training
don't
for it
think I'm
now.
not coming to Funny Girl, by the way. I mean,
Let me know. Well, I got house seats.
I will let you know for sure.
They're cheaper than the scalpers. Oh my God, what they're going for?
Oh, I can only imagine. Has there been a show as hot as Funny Girl in a while? I feel like just like the buzz around everything going on with Funny Girl to like,
Yeah.
I mean, again, I'm not like immersed in that world, but like from the outside, I'm like, oh, Funny Girl's a thing I've got to go to. And like, I think the last like Broadway show I went to was Spider-Man, but
I think probably Hamilton would still be the
oh,
hottest.
Hamilton, of course,
Yeah.
yeah,
But
yeah.
again, knowing still the state of our industry, to have this hot ticket, and grateful for, as you said, I've had two incredible leading ladies, so I've been
Yeah.
embarrassment of riches and just going strength to
Yes.
strength, and looks like this is going to run for a bit. So that's very exciting.
Buckle up,
Here we go.
and hold on.
Yeah.
All right, Ramin. Hopefully, I'll get to see you in Jersey City in about 2 weeks.
Awesome. We'll see you then.
Bye.
Bye bye.